welcome everyone. Just gonna get this started. Thank you for coming out today for Kings and Queens Love. We're gonna have a great conversation today about empowering love through relationships in today's generation. Just a backstory about Kings and Queens Love. Kings and Queens Love is about inspiring love into this new generation and helping our present and past generations heal from love trauma. Kings and Queens Love will help single individuals find and discover themselves between each other and also encourage love again. So right now, we're gonna bring you I have three amazing couples today that are really outstanding, and it's gonna be pretty special. The Love Win panels, that's what I call them, the Love Win panel, with future couples at various stages in their love journey, a married couple for over 32 years, a newly married couple that named Charles and Shireen, and a couple who is recently engaged but they couldn't make it, so shout out to them, and a couple who is exclusively dating at this moment. And I have another special guest right now, and my favorite person in the world, my host Marquis Francis. He's going to get us started. Thank you for everyone in attendance. I see people joining right now. Thank you, everyone.
Appreciate that, Ace. So happy Sunday, beautiful people. For those of you who have been around for the previous episodes or just the iterations of the King and Queens Love iterations, welcome back. For those of you who are new, welcome. This is the third installment. My name is Marquis Francis. I'm a reporter, my 9 to 5, but today, I'll be helping navigate this important conversation about love with three amazing couples, as Ace just mentioned, in different stages of their relationships. So thank you all for pulling up and joining us this evening. This event will uncover what it takes to be in a healthy relationship and how to make one work, providing for our audience, our listeners, our attendees, personal insights on the highs and lows of relationships, because any successful relationship obviously doesn't get there without some goods, some challenges, and some triumphs. But obviously, I think those challenges create those triumphs. So what works, what maybe doesn't work, and how faith and healing positively can influence that love. So just to start off with a general question for everyone, I would love if everyone could go kind of couple by couple. Oh, first of all, actually, let me introduce the couple. So first, we have Charles and Shireen Kirkendall. They have been married for 5 years. Married for 4 years. Their fifth year together, according to this. Maybe is that about right?
July.
Okay.
We've been
married for 4 years. It'll be 5 years next month, and we've been together for 9 years.
Great, beautiful. You may have seen them on Black Love. You may have seen Charles all over the place. I know he does a bunch of different things. But that just is what it is. And then we also have Gail and Terry Williams, who have been married for 32 wonderful years. Right before other folks got on this call, Terry said at this point he can do nothing wrong. And then last but not least, we have Daryl Patterson and Notori Wells, who have been exclusively dating for 5 years. And I know they have children. I heard something about children. So we're happy to have them as well. So thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. So cool. I'll start off actually with Daryl and Notori, just introduced you all. I want every couple to share this, but how would you explain love, and what does love look like in your relationship specifically? Because I think for everyone, it looks different.
Hey, thanks.
You start off. That's her thing.
Oh, gosh. You're a slight shade with the answer already. So I'm the emotional half of the relationship. For me, love looks like being present in the relationship emotionally, physically, mentally. It looks like growth, compassion, empathy. And it can look like the hard conversations that you don't want to have because it makes you uncomfortable. And just like, I guess, sticking there to do the work instead of giving up because it's easier with, it's if I'm gonna go find somebody new. They don't know you. So to me, that's what love is, like staying down to kind of get through whatever muddy situations might come along. What you do?
So for me, I'm going to say, I learned this phrase from her, and it's just choosing that person over and over again. When you really probably don't want to. That's the last choice you want to make. But you know, just choosing that person over and over again. And really, I think the thing for me is getting through just certain type of situations or issues and growing from those type of issues or circumstances, I think really define the true character of what love is in that specific relationship.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And Victoria, you kind of mentioned, or I don't know if it was Darryl who mentioned it, that you're the emotional one. How does that look like if maybe you're a little bit more emotional and Darryl is a bit more reserved in his feelings? How does that play out?
So I feel
That's exactly how it is.
I was like, so I try to express myself in ways where it gets through, but he's a man, so it's like barreling through a brick wall at times. But it can look like having the same conversation over and over again because I might not feel like I'm being heard. It can look like figuring out why I feel like I need to have that conversation. So if it's a me thing versus if it's an us thing.
Okay, cool. No, I appreciate that. So I'm gonna go over to Gail and Terry. What does love look like for you all, especially because it's been 3 decades of love, and I'm sure it's evolved over that time. So what does it look like today, maybe compared to what it looked like in the beginning?
I would say it really looks like a partnership. It's Terry's my friend in addition to being my husband. And we have 2 now adult sons. And I feel like in all this time, we have learned to just work together, to be, you know, collaborative in a lot of things we do in raising our children and going through life. We just work together. To me, love is just in our circumstance, love is just a real partnership.
You know, I would add to that, and you know, I don't want to sound like a cliche, but you know, I do have to also say support and sharing because you know, Gail has really supported a lot of things that I have attempted to do. You know, I've tried to do some entrepreneurial things. You know, never any second guessing of me, always supporting, almost to the point where I had to, at one point, say, "No, let me not do this because this could put us in a financial, you know, rabbit hole here." But because she had my back like that, you know, it could have resulted. And you know, I can't overemphasize the sharing part. And I'm not gonna speak for all men, but I know for me, the sharing part. And by sharing, I mean the whole range of sharing, whether it's what you're thinking, you know, we always share our resources, but, you know, but the sharing part is something that I've had to work on. And I may not be there yet, but I think I'm better than I used to be, you know.
And I do have a follow-up for Gail, because, you know, so Terry mentioned that, you know, you supported everything, but at some point, I think love is actually telling your partner, "Hey, that's not it." You know, they got rap dreams, and they can't put 2 sentences together. So it's love is telling them. So has there been opportunities where you've had to say, "You know what, this not it. It's not for you"?
There have been, and I'll give you an example. So Terry has been on our local school board for the past 18 years. Which has been wonderful service. I'm very proud of him for doing that. There is no way I could have been on this school board with all the ups and downs, and it's been work, and it is an unpaid job. And he does that in addition to his paid job, and in addition to his dad responsibilities and his husband responsibilities. He has spent, I can't even imagine the number of hours, days, weeks he has spent doing school board work. And earlier this year, I said our kids are long out of high school. He has done his community service, and I said, I don't want you to run again. I would be totally happy if you didn't run anymore. Heard he's had to do the meetings remotely during this pandemic, so I hear all the uproar, and it just does not sound like fun anymore for him. And I asked him to not run, but he wanted to run for some strategic reasons, and he did, and he lost. I'm very happy to say. But that's
support. That's support right there.
I am glad. I'm not glad that he lost, but I'm glad that he's going to have hours to spend with me, because our kids are grown now. It's our time.
It's you time.
And he has done his service. I'm really proud of that. But he wanted to run, and he did. But he told me he was doing it for strategic reasons, not so much to win. And it kind of worked out, and that's fine. So that was a case where I did not agree with it, but I told him I still signed his sheet to run. I still went and cast a vote for him, as did my son.
So she said.
I did.
Come to find out, she probably had a whole campaign to not get you elected, but okay. No, that's dope. That's dope. I definitely can understand where you're coming from with that, and I appreciate you sharing that. So Charles and Shireen, I would love for you all to share, what does love look like for you? Because I know, Charles, you're a bit modest, but I think for a lot of people, like Ace mentioned at the top of this, they may have seen you on the Black Love or just see you on social media. So whether you know it or not, you're inspiring people through the way you all are able to be married and still have that fun and be young parents. So what does love look like for you all?
I appreciate that. Go ahead, babe.
I think Daryl said it, but like love is a choice. Like it's definitely waking up every day and choosing to be with that person over and over again, especially when you don't want to be with them. I think that's when you show, sorry if our kid is screaming, that's when you show you love them the most. I think it's showing up for them in the hard times. It's so easy to be in love, like when everything is good, when the money's right. But I think it's like when hard times hit, when you have to make really tough decisions, choosing to stay, like Notori said, in the mud, and figuring out how we get out of the mud together and understanding that it's like a partnership. I think when Charles and I first got married, it was a lot of like wanting to win the argument. And it's like, but we're a team. So if you lose, then technically I lose too. So how do we talk through this and like get on the same page and compromise and not make it about like, you got my point, I'm right, I won. And really sometimes saying is this even worth an argument? Like, should I just step down and just know in my head, like maybe I was right, but I'm not even about to sit here and ruin the day and push this point.
I'm still working on that, Charles. I like my W's now. Listen. I'm sorry, the Lord's not finished with me yet. Go ahead. But similar to that thought, and I think the other couples here, like to me, love is an action, right? You have to work at it. You have to do your part. I won't be repetitive, but like literally it is a work. You have to approach it like a job, and the choices and decisions that you make that you want to propel other parts of your career or in the way that you want to build a relationship with the kid, you have to put that same effort into building your relationship with your significant other. And it is an action. It is intentional, and it's work. And you have to approach it like that.
Absolutely. And speaking of that work, I know you both started off long distance, right? So I can only imagine the challenges. I mean, people are just trying to figure out what they're eating that night for dinner, but you all are trying to figure out schedules, go to work, and fit in each other. So what was that like starting off your relationship long distance and figuring out a way, okay, we're eventually going to have to bring this together. We can talk about those challenges along the way, especially early on.
Yeah. So I want to give like a day in the life of like what our life used to look like then. But the most important theme of this, and I'll start there so that people could get the takeaway, is like, it's not about how you start, the convenience of it. It's about where you end. And if we weren't willing to do all of this sacrificial stuff in the beginning, like we wouldn't be together right now living the amazing life that we have as a family. So please, please, please do not allow circumstances, in my opinion, to block your blessing effectively. So now the circumstances, crazy. She got into her master's program, moved to the middle of Indiana, Purdue University. I was in New York City. So I would choose LaGuardia, JFK, and or Newark, New Jersey after work, flying out on a Friday. The closest airport was Indianapolis,
Was
but the
60
flights,
miles.
yeah, but the flights are significantly more expensive in Indianapolis. And going back 9 years, money is not the way that it is now. So I would sometimes fly into Chicago. She would drive from middle of Indiana to O'Hare Airport. Because Spirit was the cheapest, like $49. Like, listen. That's all we had now. So she would drive 2.5 hours to pick me up from O'Hare. And then we immediately drive back down 2.5 hours so that we could spend a day and a half together. And she would drive me all the way back. I would fly back and then she would drive back down. We tried to get that done maybe twice a month or once a month.
Twice a month.
Wow. And then flash forward to today, y'all are living together in the same city. And what is it?
In the same bed.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it was.
And how long did you do that, the back and forth?
3 years.
Yeah, 3 years, 2 years of grad school, and then she received the full-time. Yeah, she received the full-time offer in Atlanta, and I was like, wait, you're not coming to New York? She's like, no. And I was like, oh, urge you. She was like, I'm not planning my career around a boyfriend. Like, no. So
I moved to Atlanta. You know, God works it out. His mom actually ended up getting a job for Delta, so he was able to fly standby. And obviously, Atlanta is Delta's hub, so like it was a flight every hour from New York. So he would like sometimes call me on a Thursday and be like, "Hey, I'm gonna come down tonight."
Gotta check up on them now. Listen, listen. Sometimes you gotta pop in. That I'm not saying everything will be perfect, y'all. Sometimes, woo.
You're a mess. But yeah, sometimes he will like call me the night before, like I'm gonna come in tomorrow. So that was more helpful because it helped us see each other more. And obviously, like Atlanta being a much smaller city, it was so much easier to get to him. And we were able to then extend our weekends to like Monday because he could leave at like 6 a.m. on Monday morning
and go
straight to work. Yeah, no, it was definitely a lot. But the one thing I will say for long distance is like, I think the distance makes it super easy to like ignore issues because it's like you have a part-time boyfriend or girlfriend, right?
Yeah.
I only have to see you on, you know, the weekends, we go out, we have fun. We're not going to talk about problems. Like we want to enjoy our time together. So I think one thing it did is it definitely forced us, like, especially when we weren't together, it was like, if we have an argument, don't ignore it. Don't push it under the rug. It's so easy to like not talk to you for a few hours, a few days. I don't have to see you. But we were intentional in making sure like we were talking, we were communicating. If we had issues, we were talking that out and not making it like that, like this weekend fun relationship. And then you get together full time and you're like, oh, I don't actually like you. Like you're only fun on the weekends. I don't want to talk to you Monday through Friday.
The Tory over there dying. Let them hop in. Let them hop in.
Yeah,
we're kind of long distance in a way now because he's out of town half the week and then here half the week. So it's definitely like, well, when he's here, I'm like, okay, well, let's talk about this. And he's like, no, I don't want to. So like, I totally understand.
Let's just have a good time. Like I mean, let's live.
I'm like, but we got issues. Like, so like, we over here dying, like because he's making little noises, and I'm just like.
No, that's amazing. I mean, I think
right. Like, can we just get through
good time before that.
It's like, what time your flight leaving? Okay, because you gotta know. Thanks.
Day two.
Listen.
Like, excuse me, wake up. We got something to talk about.
That's amazing. And I think anyone, whether long distance or not, Sharina, I appreciate you sharing that because I think just the overall idea, don't let your circumstances stop you from love. I think, Charles, you said that, and that's really amazing. And I think everyone could get something from that, whether it's long distance, whether it's not having money, whether it's whatever challenge it is. If it's meant to be, obviously it's meant to be, but it's all about showing up every day and choosing, as a lot of people have said already. But Gail, I want to turn to you and Terry because in terms of not letting circumstances stop you, I know you both met. I believe it was your first day working and Terry's last day. So I think you took his job and yet 32 years later, y'all still together. So can you talk about how you all started dating and how that came together?
Yep. So Terry and I both worked at a newspaper in New York. We're both reporters. I was an intern. Terry was actually working as an editorial assistant, but he was leaving because he got a job elsewhere in Massachusetts. I was being trained to take his job. So he was the person who was leaving. He trained me. kind of hit it off, but he was getting ready to move to Massachusetts. I was still in New York, but we dated pretty much long distance for about a year. How long was that?
Yeah, I'd say it's about a year.
Well, not longer. Then I went to graduate school.
Yeah.
Right. So overall, it was about 2 years. But we were like really old school long distance because this was in 1984. So there was no email and stuff like that. And
it was letter writing and phone calls.
Yeah, and phone calls were expensive. And I lived in my parents' house, and long distance calls to Massachusetts were not a thing.
Young folks laughing at us.
So we actually did write letters, and we talked about music and stuff with letters, and so we did that for a couple of years. And then eventually, I got a job at the same paper where Terry was in Massachusetts, and that's when the relationship really took off because we were in the same place. And then we got married 3 years after that.
Wow. And how would you describe, just some words to describe your relationship from now till then? Because you went from sending, it sounds like postcards and telegrams to now being able to send a text message. But now you're able to send text messages.
Pony Express.
What are some words you would use to describe your relationship and how it's evolved?
It's evolving is one thing, is that it's growing. I mean, at that time it was just us talking about just us. And now we have a family, we have extended family. We talk about a lot of different things. Our relationship is not just about where we're going this weekend or where we're going, what party we're going to go to or where we're going to hang out. We have money. We own a house. We have money decisions. We've thought about businesses. It's evolving. So it takes on different levels. Like before, I would say it was great, but it was very simple. And now we have all these highs and lows and ups and downs, and it's always evolving, which is I'm grateful for. I would not want to be going through this life without Terry.
Absolutely, thank you for that. And Daryl and Notori, you talked about, obviously, I think evolving, and now it looks like Daryl's gone half the week, but in your relationship, I believe you moved around a bunch. So what has that been like, kind of deciding once again to choose each other and each other place you've moved to, and kind of renegotiating when it's time to move to another space?
Hey, I went first last time. Go ahead.
Not necessarily renegotiating, just trying to check each other's temperature to see if we're still on the same page, to see if we still are looking to move forward and still working on the things that we said we wanted to work on. During that time, of course, everything that isn't perfect. So there's been times where it seems like we had agreements on certain things and it didn't seem to go in the fashion that we thought it should. And, now I'm looking at her, she's looking at me, and we're looking at each other trying to find out, I thought we were going this way, and your actions, seems like exactly you're on the winding road. So the moves just happen to come with just different times in our lives. First one was, her actually moving into my apartment. I think that one was it was a testy move, because why do you think it's a testy move? I'm gonna say on my end.
Go ahead.
So on my end, my rent was about to be up, and I had a nice apartment, little bachelor pad. It was decked out. I spent entirely too much money on this place, and at the time, I think this is right before I tore my Achilles.
You tore your Achilles after I'd been there for like months, right?
I'm saying that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I had tore my Achilles, and but the ring, I was about to.
You wasn't about to move out.
Well, anyways, I think it came to a point where I had to make a decision if we were going to stay at this apartment or go to her house, which was a lot cheaper and a lot bigger. And for me, it was a financial decision. I'm like, okay, if I move in with you, we save a lot more money. I can pay that, cover that. You can save money. I can save money. We save money all together. This was my thinking. And
he tore his Achilles.
And I tore my Achilles. And it kind of threw everything off. So it was a lot easier getting in my apartment and things like that. And it was her house was kind of like on a slope and things like that.
It had stairs.
Yeah, it was just a bunch of different stuff. So it kind of didn't go as planned. And we just kind of had different opinions on it. What was your?
I was gonna say when I first moved in, like that was a testy thing because it was kind of like he was trying to prove the relationship. So like move in with.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's what I was gonna talk about. Like when we initially, because I had a townhouse, he had this apartment, and it was kind of like we were getting back together. And so I think for him to say, "Come live with me," like that was a lot. Especially because he had this little bachelor pad, and I was coming over there being like, "Here go our picture. Here's my key." You know what I'm saying? Like, we're gonna put it in the living room so everybody can see. You know what I mean? Just staking my claim. So I think for him that was a way to show like that he was serious. Mm-hmm. And then just the other moves, like you said, it was our lease was up at the apartment, and are we gonna move forward and get another place together? And then same thing. We get a house together. Now the lease is up at the house, and we're getting a house built. And it's like, okay, are we still going to move forward and be together? Because Charles, like your wife said, being together on the weekends or, it's fun. It's like a summertime relationship. Y'all going out, y'all drinking and stuff. But then when real life hits and it's not just a weekender relationship, it's like, I don't really like you all the time. Like, this ain't what I thought it was. You know what I mean? So it's not the whole cliche rainbows and sunshine and flowers, and how do you navigate being in love when you don't feel like you're in love? So I think that we kind of are doing a better job in making sure that those kind of aspects are there to make sure that that even though it might not feel like the butterflies, it's like I'm still choosing you day in and day out. And that's, to me, more important than the butterflies, because those come and go.
I appreciate that. And Gail and Terry, I feel like that was like a great segue from the Tory. How do you choose love even when you don't really feel like choosing it? And being married for 3 decades, I can only imagine there were maybe at points where it's like, today, really, I'm not a fan of you today, but I'm still going to choose you. So I'm curious, what did you all have to pull on during those times where you felt like, you know what, it's the 10th, 11th, 12th year of the school board. I told you not to do it again. But yeah, just what were some of those things you kind of had to pull on?
You know what, I gotta say, and I feel blessed and lucky in this way. I have not really felt that. Yeah, there have been times when I've been annoyed. Oh my goodness, isn't she lovely?
Thank you.
I'm sorry. When you have adult children, and boys, I got 2 boys. So for the men who have daughters, I say y'all are the luckiest ones in the world, because sometimes my sons want to kill me. So I digress. But yeah, there have been, obviously times where we've had arguments and disagreements, but I got to say, I never felt any feelings of, do I really love this person? Yeah, I'm blessed in that way. But again, yeah, we've had arguments, and ironically, our biggest arguments have been usually about our sons. Different parenting styles, but we've worked that out. But yeah, I can't really say that I've had that, and I feel able to say that.
Mm-hmm. So you would agree, Gail? I would assume.
Yeah, I don't. No, I really. there really hasn't been a day where I'm thinking, oh, did I make a mistake? Or, oh, I'm really not feeling him today. I mean, there are times, of course, when we have disagreements, but there's never been a time where I thought, did I make the right move? Maybe this isn't the right person. Really hasn't been, really. And that's honest. Okay. You know, that's not shining rainbows every day, but it's never to the point where I think I've made a mistake. Never.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely appreciate that. And so Charles and Shireen, being somewhat earlier on in your marriage journey, I'm just curious how you all have figured how to keep yourself within the marriage. I think a lot of times when people get married, oftentimes some of the challenges are they aren't able to be themselves. All of a sudden, the family is everything. But I know you all have been able to have your own things and have your fun and continue to be who you are through your relationship. How have you navigated that, maybe when it was challenging, or maybe it is simple for you all, but I'm curious how that's been.
Why you look like that?
I'm listening.
I think for us, like, we have never wanted to be people who like
are in the love cocoon. Is that where you're going?
Or in a family cocoon. Like, we don't do nothing without our and it's not to say that we don't love hanging out with our kid. He comes to, if you've ever hung out with us, our LA friends are always like, CJ didn't come this time. And I'm like, no. But I think for us, it's like, I have never wanted to be like just mom. Before I was mom, I was a friend, I was a wife, I was a sister. So I have always wanted to keep those parts of me. So I think to me, that's how we keep it fun, because it's like, even tonight, like we're going out to dinner after this, and we're like, let's leave the baby home. So I think for us, it's like creating spaces where it's like Charles can be just Charles and hang out with the boys, and then Charles can be dad, and Charles can be, you know, Charles the entrepreneur, and like creating spaces for ourselves to like do what we enjoy doing with each other and without each other. Yeah, because I love Charles, but like I don't want to be with him all the time.
All right, relax. I mean, my thought process there is pretty similar, but our method is the fact that we have lives outside of each other. And I think that that's super important. Like, as much as this is my wife, as much as this is my soulmate, whatever wild words people who aren't married want to put on it, this is my homie. This is my friend. This is my best friend. So even when I'm doing something that has absolutely nothing to do with her, I'm on whatever, all I'm trying to do is go back and tell her everything that just happened, right? And so we have our times apart. She on her girl trips, I'm at bachelor party, or I'm doing my business stuff. She's, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, spending money. Sorry, let me stop. I threw a jab. Whatever it is that she enjoys doing. But we have those spaces to A, be able to miss each other, but B, you know, allow us to be whole people. Like I love the fact that we are what we are together, but we're also who we are separately as well.
Absolutely, that's beautiful. And I know there's a couple questions in the chat. I'm gonna pass it over to Ace so he can ask those couple of those questions, and I'm gonna close on now. But Ace is gonna keep it going from here.
Thank you, brother. So one of the questions that we have here is from Herbert. Is what do you think is the key to making long distance work? So who would like to answer that? Like, how do you make a long distance relationship work? Who would like to answer that?
I think the key is, one, being honest with yourself. Like I said, like I think sometimes distance, like you think like, oh, I've invested all this time, all this money, like I don't just want to end it. Charles can tell you, I used to ask him all the time, like, are you gonna marry me? Because if you're not gonna marry me, we can break up right now. like I don't even care. Like, we can break up because my man is behind you and you're blocking him. But I think it's being honest with yourself. And I also think it's like being honest with the situation. Like for us, like we knew there needed to be an end date. So it was just like, how are we going to end this? And for me, I made the sacrifice. And when we got engaged, I had a full-time job. I quit my full-time job and took a temp job to move back to New York because I had faith in us working. I had faith in our relationship. But it was like, at some point, somebody has to give, right? Like there has to be some compromise. So I think if you're entering a long distance relationship, you have to know that like, okay, I might love where I live and he loves where he lives, but like, who's gonna make the compromise? And like, right? So yeah, I think it's just like being real and being honest about the situation that, you know, it's not perfect. And at some point we're gonna have to make a change. And what is that change gonna
be? Thank you, Shereen, for answering that.
Sorry, guys.
And then we have another question from Patricia. Did any of you have to ask God to intervene and help you see that God in the situation? Anyone want to speak to that?
Say that question one more time.
Did any of you had to ask God to intervene and help you see the God in this situation? Not sure.
Every day.
All the time.
He said all the time.
This morning, last night, an hour ago.
God, please help me get through this.
Give it to the morning, Lord. Just give it to the morning.
I think a real life example for us is that like we have a son, and I wanted a second child. Carl didn't want a second child. And he made it super clear that he didn't want a second child. And at some point I said to myself, like, hey, you got to stop nagging him to have a second child, because it's clear he doesn't want it. It's clear that you want it. So I had to pray, and I was like, God, either make me happy with one child or make him have a desire to have a second child. I'm not just going to pray to change him, right? I'm going to pray to change myself too. Like whoever God, change one of us, because somebody got to change. So, you know,
Yeah. God worked on me, and through circumstance, through COVID, this random year that, you know, really was crazy for a lot of people. Through that, I was like, yo, I feel like I'm ready. Like, it's been 4 years. I'm ready to have another kid. I never thought that I would have more than one kid. And now here we are, like, trying to have another kid now. So it's just like, yeah, you go to God and try and work it out every day, every scenario.
Thank you for sharing.
I think the one thing I'd like to add, one thing I'd like to add is if you don't have God in your relationship, you know, please do get him in there, because you know, certainly God has blessed us, but I can tell you early on we didn't have that relationship with God in our relationship, and we subsequently did, and it has been a blessing ever since. So I don't know if this answers that person's question, but certainly if you can start your relationship with God in it, that's great. But subsequently, get God in your relationship.
Yeah.
You know, thank you, Terry, for speaking on that. And one of the questions that I like to bring to the table, what is your advice for today's generation in terms of, you know, some of you guys been together 32 years of being married, you know, almost 5 years of marriage and 5 years of knowing each other. So what is your advice for today's generation, or what are you telling your friends in the group chats, or some of your homegirls who's hitting you up like, I can't find a man, or I do have a man and he's, you know, driving me crazy, or vice versa? What is some of your advice to, you know, because I always hear from a lot of young ladies, women, guys too, you know, I can't find anybody, or out of this person, you know, what is your advice for today's generation? And Shireen, if you want to start.
So I think for the single people who always feel like I can't find someone, especially women, it's like, you gotta go out. Like, I have so many homegirls who are like, they're like, I don't want to go out, but I'm like, you're not gonna find, like, this is not a rom-com. You're not gonna find your man at the grocery store, like, bumping in the spaghetti aisle and ask you out on a date. Could happen, but like, let's be real. Like, so you have to go to events. Like, you have to go out even when you don't want to. And I think, like, especially women, or I guess guys too, like, we kind of get trapped in a type, like, oh, I don't want to date him. He's not my type. And it's just like, sis, your type hasn't been working for you. Like, you're still single. Maybe date outside of your type. Maybe date that guy who's not the perfect package. And I think for us, like, we're so, and we have to have like negotiable and non-negotiable. Like, what are things I'm gonna break or bend on? Like, you know, you want a man that checks every single box on your list, but if he checks like 90%, like, you have to figure out that last 10, like, is it something, are those things I can live without? So I think for most people, it's like really like looking at the situation and saying like, but they're perfect in every other way. So like, if he's not as tall as you want him to be, that's okay too. Like you can, that's something that's not life changing, right? But if he's like have the morals, like he's financially responsible, you like,
values,
he has like core values that you love. Like we gotta sometimes look past that physical, like, because at the end of the day, we're not all gonna look like this forever. So it's just like, to me, if, God forbid Charles got in a car accident, I still love Charles for who he is at the core. So if something physical about him changed, like I'd be sad, but I'm not gonna be exactly who I married. I'm like, it's okay.
Yeah, and I think, and again, I haven't dated in this social media era. When we started talking, it was like you poke somebody on Facebook, and I hope nobody's still doing that. So we missed out on all the dating apps and things, but I just think, leverage those. Like people get tight, like because we're the Black love couple and we meet other couples and people want to talk to us like, oh, where'd you guys meet? Oh, on an app. Great. That is amazing. Like that, yeah, find them where they're at. Like be intentional about it, like date. And secondarily, this whole social media stuff is crazy. My mom said on the phone in her room talking about my Uncle Richard. That was the guy that she was dating. You guys, they put uncle on it back then. And to that end, she was sitting on the phone talking to her friends. But now you could tell everybody about your relationship. You can tell thousands upon thousands of people about your relationship, or deleting all your pictures the minute y'all going through stuff like bro. Keep so many people out your relationship. Sure, you got your people. You got your few people you need to lean on. You got guys you need to lean on, but like don't have everybody in your freaking business. Like literally. Work it out, figure it out. And I have one more piece, but I forgot. But I'm gonna pass it. But like, that's where I'm at.
Thank you, Gail. Terry.
I would say I have a lot of friends who aren't married. Who have a lot of my girlfriends have never been married. I'm not really sure why that is necessarily, but I would say what one of the other panelists says: go out. Do things, and don't necessarily go out with the intention of I'm going to this dance party, whatever, because I want to meet somebody. Volunteer. I mean, I have two good friends who met because we were in a group that was donating food to somebody who was needy. These two people ended up being the two people giving the food to the needy person, taking it to their home. They've been married 20 plus years, so go and do things, go and just be with people. And, like the other young lady was saying about what's your type? You don't know what a type is. You're looking for a person, go meet people, just go out and meet people. And, hopefully eventually some spark will happen. I didn't go to Newsday that day and say, I might meet my future husband. I had no idea. I met somebody who I was really attracted to, who, and then as we started dating, I realized there was a whole bunch of things I liked about him. The first thing I liked about Terry is that he wore glasses. I have a thing for guys who wear glasses. And, eventually he wasn't just glasses, and he didn't just like jazz. He was, a whole bunch of things that I didn't even know I wanted. So just go out and meet people. And honestly, even if it doesn't turn into a love relationship, it turns into lots of friends. And how can that be a bad thing? So, just go and meet people, just go and live your life. And hopefully you'll find somebody who is your love mate, but just meet people.
I agree. Anything? No, that's good.
Thank you, Terry and Darrell and Victoria. Daryl.
Yeah, I had to put a mute. My daughter's over here playing the drums.
So what's the question? Where do you go to meet people? I feel like a lot of people go on. I'm gonna be honest. I hate social media for relationships. Because I feel like it ruins a lot of relationships, because what happens is girls see what you're doing for your man, or they see what your man is doing for you and think that, oh, I want that, or hopefully he'll do it for me too, and try to squeeze in. So I wouldn't necessarily say go on social media to find dates, but kind of like everybody else is saying, go out. Even if it's not just to the club, because it's the same thing. you see people might be going out with their friends and have a whole girl at home or a wife or whatever. So for me, it's more so like we met at the gym. You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was not somewhere, like I wasn't going to the gym to go meet anybody. I wasn't really looking to meet anybody, and it just kind of happened that way. And I think it's more organic in that way because, you know, when you go out, it's alcohol involved and, you know, you and your best wares, you know what I'm saying? At the gym, I probably just woke up an hour ago, my hair not done, I got a hat on, I probably been cussing. So it's like, oh, you think I'm cute? Okay, like we can go out. Just wait till I get dressed up. Wait till you see what I really look like. So that's why I think like it's just more organic and a little bit more authentic in that way.
Thank you for saying that. And I actually want to I have some questions for the panel. Do you know your partner's love languages or love language?
Yes, we do.
Wow, you don't know?
You better.
I know. Hers is acts of service, and what's the other one? The words of affirmation. I'm sorry.
Words of affirmation, quality time.
Okay, his is gifts and physical touch. But I got to
in that order.
I didn't say it was in that order. I just gave him. But
sound bad. Oh, like gifts.
he likes gifts, y'all. Okay, but I got a question. Do y'all use your partner's love language? Because I think it doesn't really mean anything if you know it and you don't actually use it.
Yeah, no, that's a fact. I think that that somebody earlier, I think Unitary talked about like the butterflies, the early butterflies. When the butterflies were off us, like we had to really start being intentional about our love. And I was loving her, I guess, in my own love language. Like, yo, I'm a hustler and I'm busting my ass. Like, why is that not enough? Why is me just saying, hey, babe, I love you this morning the thing that gets you all going? I said, the work ain't getting you going. This ain't getting you going. Like, are you kidding? But I was like, okay, cool. I'm loving you in the way that I like to. I like to see it, right? And she likes to hear it. And I'm like, oh, okay. That's all you need. That's something that I needed to like own and change and, have that kind of self-reconciliation. I need to do a better job of being intentional with the way that, you receive your love versus how I like to give it. And that's not always easy.
Easy.
I agree.
It's not easy at all.
And I think we naturally love in our love language, right? So like our love language is acts of service. So like I'll make myself lunch and I'll bring him lunch. And he's like, I don't care about this lunch.
God, I didn't want this lunch.
He's like, I asked for this lunch. Meanwhile, I'm like, I bought you lunch. Like, I love you. You've been in the room. You've been in the room. That's so sweet. Bye.
Thank you for sharing that. Then another question comes from Meryl. How do you keep boundaries when it comes to family members in your relationship? For example, family offering unsolicited advice.
That was the last thing. This came back to me though. In those conversations, I talked about like my mom on the phone gossiping about her relationship. It's like we oftentimes only tell the bad. And we don't do that same thing with the good with our friends or our family or whomever it is that confidant piece is. And then you just giving such a rough perception. So I would say, A, be fair, like be fair. But secondarily, don't tell them, bro, like keep your relationship to you and your partner, bro. And don't get me wrong, like I'm not saying don't lean on anybody. There are people, you know what I'm saying? I think we even like shared more with like our parents recently than we probably have ever shared in our relationship. So, we solicit advice as needed, but like, for me, it's just like their opinion is not gonna affect you two, right? It's like, okay, that might make sense or it might not make sense. You take it for the grain of salt from their own experience, their own background, their own trauma, the relationships that they've had. And if it's helpful, great. If it's not helpful, it is what it is. Like, I don't know. I don't think I answered that clearly, but
I think to their question, like creating boundaries, I think like you and your partner need to have a conversation about like what your boundaries are and create them. Like Charles's family loves to come visit. Like they love to be like around us. We live in LA. They live in like colder places. So it's like our weather is always nice. Like but Charles knows me, and he's like, okay, y'all gotta have an end date, because like my wife can't take like visitors all the time. Like it's a lot for me. It makes me anxious. So it's like he knows, like, okay, we've had a lot of guests. Like maybe let's take a week off from having guests, or like maybe let's just do something just us. So it's like you need to understand what your partner's boundaries are and like respect that too. Like don't just say like, oh, but that's annoying. Like you gotta understand, like stuff that bothers Charles don't bother me, and stuff that bothers me don't bother him. But it's like I know who he is. And it's like you sometimes, especially if it's your family, it's up to you to be the mouthpiece and speak up for your partner and say like, hey, that's not cool. Like, let's step back from that. And not let it always be your partner's fight. Cause it's like, I don't want to fight with his family, but I want him to fight for me. And remembering that. So
that's a gem. Sure, you gotta write a book. Really gotta write it. Thank you for sharing that.
She got so many gems, bro.
I see. And another from Herbert, this is for the couple who has been together for 32 years. What are the next steps for you to continue this strong relationship that you have?
Well, one thing I kind of say facetiously is to get our adult children up out of here. They're good boys, first of all, let me say that. Our oldest one just recently moved out. And the younger one is who's 22. You know, he's got a job. He got a job out of college. So actually he's doing his thing. And we still got to tell him, dude, you got to tell us when you're going out or where you're going. So, and I don't really want to have those conversations, but you know, truer words are said in jest. So part of it is, you know, getting them out. I think the other thing is just making sure that we're friends, that, you know, we're simpatico, you know, because, you know, for 27 years, we've been parents and somebody has lived with us and we've been looking out for somebody else. And, you know, and for how many years were we married before? 5 years. So for 5 years we had, it was just us, you know, and it was a good time back then, you know, so we gotta make sure we can still have that good time, you know.
You know, we had a little bit of a hint of not having children for about a year almost, because both the boys were studying in Europe. So they were gone for like a good 9 months. And it was just me and Terry. And it was a little weird, you know, that it was, because it was back to the way it had been when we first got married. But it was nice. And I, you know, look forward to that time. That's why he's not on the school board anymore. And I'm happy about that. So,
has she said that before?
But it's more, it's going back to the way we used to be, which is just about us, not about, you know, young people and their schedules and where we have to take them and where they have to be, but just focusing on each other, which will be very nice. I'm looking forward to that.
I am too.
You know, thank you for just, you know, sharing that. You know, I know your son, you know, really happy to see him, you know, just graduate. And then one thing, you know, I know we have a few minutes left. This one thing I want to ask, you know, everyone on this panel, what are some things that you love about your partner that, you know, that you can't live without, that you wouldn't change? And I really, you know, I know, you know, everyone here for the most part, but I would just love for you to tell the audience, like, you know, what do you love about your partner that, you know, they still the same, they met them. So what are some qualities that you love about them?
I'll start. I actually got one. Like, what I love about this woman more than anything is her recognition of my blind spots. Like, as smart and articulate and analytical as I think I am, she has consistently, called me out when I was wrong. I don't like it, but she lets me know when I'm wrong. She lets me know when she sees opportunities for me. She lets me know when, you know, there's opportunities for growth for me and things that I might shy away from. Like, hey, I think you need to be indexed more on that. She's helped me, in my humble opinion. I would not be the person that I am today. And I think humbly, I'm like a really good person. Like, I just have good morals and, you know, just like a good way about me. And I, you know, have turned my life into more success than I ever thought I would have. And I think that that's very much attributed to the 9 years that I've known and spent with her, and how she's like pushed me and kept me. And yeah.
I would say the one thing I love about Charles is like he has such a good heart. He has a heart for people. to the point where I'm sometimes like, have a little less heart for the people. Like,
you're crazy.
But yeah, I think because of that, like, I get so protective. I'm like, I don't want nobody using you, like, because he's so sweet. He definitely, we have the saying at work, like, assume positive intent. So if someone says something to you, just assume that they're being positive. And Charles always tries to assume positive intent about people. And I love that about him, because like, I tend to be a little less of that. So,
New York, she's from the Bronx, so I'm from Chicago. You know, we got a little southernness to us.
So it's like he really balances me out in that way. And I love that, like, he always wants to assume the best of people and that people have the best intentions. Even when sometimes I'm like, they don't have the best intentions. And it's like, yeah, but you know what? I'm gonna still do the right thing, because God's gonna bless me for my heart and for me doing the right thing. And I would love to have that much openness and like have that character trait, because I'm like, I'm gonna be petty.
Next.
Now, thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to the next couple, Gail and Terry, if you can speak on that.
Chris, do me a favor, repeat that question.
So what is the most significant thing that you love about your partner? And what is something that you wouldn't change about your partner?
Wow.
I can go first.
You go first.
Okay. So Terry is honest and forthright. And sometimes I'm not, because I want to be nice, even though I'm from the Bronx.
Oh, man, let's end this.
But I appreciate that Terry is forthright and honest, because it's taught me that you don't just try to put bows on things and sugarcoat stuff. You can be. It has taught me to stand up for myself. It has taught me to say what is real as opposed to what is nice, which is kind of my way. So I would not change that. And I have learned so much from Terry just from him being that way that I wouldn't change that for a minute.
Man, I don't know if I could boil it down to a question. I mean, to a few sentences. I'm just going to just share an anecdote quickly. So, I've mentioned a few times, during our conversation about, the role of God in our lives. And, there was a point in our lives where, Jesus wasn't in our lives. And I remember pointedly, my wife, it was a Sunday morning, we were in bed. She was pregnant with our second son. She got up and took our older son to church. And she wanted me to go. And I said, no, I'm not going. And I watched them walk out the driveway, my wife waddling, pregnant with our 4-year-old and 3-year-old at the time. And then my son came back and said to me, or the next Sunday, he said, I don't want to go because, I want to stay here with Dad. And I said, oh, I can't have that, and I guess what the point that I'm making is my wife brought up the subject to me. She didn't belabor the point, but I hate to put it this way, she won the argument, or her point was made, and our lives have been better for it. And, I just like the way that, she talks to me, I just like the way we handle stuff. I wouldn't change anything. Actually, just one thing I would say, she talked about me being honest and direct, but she's also taught me, and she used the phrase, put a bow on it. So I've learned to put a bow on stuff. If for no other reason, it helps the employment situation, because you can't be always straight in the workplace as you want to be. In other instances, I may be less, I may revert to my straightforwardness, but I hope I answered the question to your satisfaction, but
just answer it honestly.
It's just great. It's been a great 32 years, and I wouldn't change anything.
And to Yarrow and Notori.
Sorry, y'all, we got so much going on. You go first.
Go ahead.
So mine is, and he probably won't think that I would say this. I think he's like the bomb when it comes to business. And he's been very patient with me about teaching me and helping me elevate. And to me, I appreciate that probably more than he will ever realize or know, because we don't think the same. So like, I feel like he's way more logical. I'm the creative side. So he's like, white plus whatever equals this. And I'm like, no, it's a little shade darker, you know, and it's frustrating for him. But I'm like, no, but you got to see the other colors. And he's like, no, it's just black. And I'm like, it's a grayish blue. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that he even frustratingly can be patient to teach me certain things, because I know he does see that potential and he does believe in my greatness. So that attribute of him is just like, I hope he never changes that. And it makes me want to make him proud. You know what I'm saying? Like, I am listening to you. I am doing the things that, you know, taking note and actually putting forth some effort and doing what you know, kind of have taught me, because you've done it. You've taken the bumps and the bruises, and now you're teaching me so that I don't have to make those same mistakes that you might have. And I think for anybody to do that and kind of put you in that position shows that they really do like love and care about you. And so I really do appreciate him for that patience, because I know I'm a little hard-headed, but I feel like most creative people are. So that's mine.
I think for me, it's a catch-22, you know, and what I mean by that is, like we were talking earlier, the whole, you know, I'm only in town for 4 days, like, let's have a good time, and her wanting to have that talk. And one thing that, although I hate to have the talk, sometimes I feel like the talk may not be that important for us to have the talk. But for that very reason, it also strengthens our relationship and makes it a lot better. And she's been the only person I've ever been with that has held me accountable for certain situations, and making sure that we have those talks, and making sure that we clear the air on anything that we have going on, or having to understand on everything that goes on. So even though I hate it with a strong passion, I appreciate it just as much, because after the smoke is cleared, after everything is said and done, we've moved on and graduated and leveled up from those certain places. So, you know, it's like I said, it's a catch-22. It's a, like I said, I know in the back of my head, okay, take a breath, woo sigh, hear her out. It's gonna be a rainbow at the end of this conversation.
Well, so mud first, though.
We gotta get through this mud first. And I think that's one of the things that I appreciate about her more than anything.
Thank you for sharing. And just getting back home, I wanted to have this conversation today with Kings and Queens Love, you know, about empowering the love. I think in today's generation, we need to do more of that. And I really want to say, you know, thank you to all our amazing panelists, Charles and Shireen, Gail and Terry, Darrell and Tori. Just want to say thank you for coming in, stopping by today, dropping, I think, maybe over 50 gems. I'm taking notes so I can have it for the future. Now, you know, I want to get, you know, first I got to go, you know, getting married, and then, you know, God willing, you know, making it to 30 years. You know, and I just want to say, I each know one, you know, each couple personally. I just want to say, you know, thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you from the audience for coming listening, and you know, love wins, as you can see. So thank you so much, and you know, everybody, if anyone want to have any last things to say, please feel free before we head out.